Have your parents ever told you to get off your damn phone and pay attention? Well, mine actually haven't, because they're more on their phones than I am. But for me, I was the one who told myself to get off my damn phone after I watched the Netflix documentary The Social Dilemma, which, by the way, I highly recommend you do as well. So let's get into my experience of not using social media for 7 days, or actually 8 days straight. Like me, you probably don't think social media controls your life in the way your parents, the news, scientists and whoever else seem to portray. And while that certainly can be the case for some of you, we do have a tendency to give ourselves a bit too much credit here. Whether you think you have the ultimate control of your social media use or whether you think you don't, I would suggest watching the Netflix documentary The Social Dilemma that inspired this video and my previous one, because I think that either way it's a good thing to know more about how social media works and the things that can pull you in. The rules for my week without social media were simple. I would delete Facebook, Pinterest and Instagram from my phone, and I did allow myself to keep YouTube, and at the beginning I wanted to use it for my channel purposes only, but I'll explain later why that didn't exactly work out. But I couldn't use Instagram, Facebook and Pinterest for the whole week. As most of you probably would guess, I knew that from the beginning Instagram was going to be the hardest, since I barely use Facebook or Pinterest anyway. The thing that makes comparing my results in the week with social media with the week without is that in the week before I did this challenge, my phone actually didn't register the time I spent on Instagram. I'm not sure why, because I'm sure that I did spend some time on Instagram, and if I have to go about my data from weeks before that, I would think that on average I spent between 20 and 40 minutes on Instagram per day. So that's unfortunately what I have to do with here. Another important thing to notice is that in the week I did this challenge, I was actually sick at home the entire week, so that led to a much higher screen time than usually, because I was simply home all day and I couldn't do much besides laying in my bed with my phone or my laptop or something. So you will notice that my screen time is very high, and it's actually higher in the week I did this challenge than it was the week before. Me being sick all week is also the reason why only using YouTube for this channel's purposes didn't really work out, because I was just really bored, and I did basically anything else that I could do I already did or finished, so YouTube was my only way out. Okay, here are the amount of hours I spent on my phone during the week without social media. On the Friday I deleted the apps, although this doesn't really count because I did still use Instagram and Pinterest that morning. But on that day I spent 8 hours and 20 minutes on my phone, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But once again, please keep in mind that I was sick at home and didn't have anything else to do that day. On Saturday my phone says I spent 10 hours and 21 minutes on my phone. When I looked at this to see what the results were, I was absolutely baffled, because I wasn't even awake 10 hours and 21 minutes that day because I felt so awful. But when I actually looked at it further, my phone apparently says that I spent 10 hours and 2 minutes in my settings app from my phone, and I have honestly no idea how that's possible. But that's why the amount of time spent on my phone seems so crazy high. When I actually added up all the numbers from the apps that I actually did spend time on that day, you come out at 3 hours and 12 minutes spent on my phone that Saturday. Sunday is pretty similar, 3 hours 15 minutes. Monday 1 hour 16 minutes. Tuesday 4 hours and 53 minutes, again pretty painful. Wednesday 4 hours and 32 minutes. Thursday 4 hours and 8 minutes, and Friday 4 hours and 7 minutes. I do think it's important though to notice that during the week without social media, the time that I did spend on my phone I actually spent on mostly reading and puzzles, and unfortunately YouTube. That's still a pretty bad habit I have. So I now thought it would be nice to break down what I actually spent my time on the days that I did this challenge. So On the day I started this challenge, I spent 3 hours and 32 minutes on YouTube, 1 hour and 5 minutes on Heyday, 1 hour and 2 minutes on Netflix, actually watching the documentary that inspired this whole thing, 43 minutes on Google Chrome, which is where I read stories, 41 minutes on a Sudoku app, 27 minutes on another thinking game app, 24 minutes on Trading 212, the app I used for investing. And yes, as soon as I have a lot of time on my hands, I start spending a lot of time on there just watching what is happening. And then a total of 19 minutes on just WhatsApp, my banking app, YouTube Studio and all that. On Saturday I spent 1 hour and 24 minutes on Google Chrome. Again, that's where I read stories. 45 minutes on Heyday. 29 minutes on Adventures of Alto, another game. 14 minutes on a thinking game. 13 minutes on YouTube, which is obviously way better than usual. 2 minutes on WhatsApp, 2 minutes on a Sudoku game, 2 minutes in the Google Play Store, and 1 minute Notion. Sunday I spent 1 hour and 9 minutes on YouTube, again pretty bad. 1 hour and 2 minutes on the Adventures of Alto game, which is pretty... well, let's just say I was into it that day. 26 minutes of Heyday, 17 minutes of Chrome, 8 minutes of email, 6 minutes of WhatsApp, 2 minutes of YouTube Studio. The day after that I spent 19 minutes on WhatsApp, 9 minutes on Trading 212, 9 minutes on Alto, around 20 minutes on some not really important stuff like a calculator because I tried to do some math homework, I believe. Next day, 2 hours and 14 minutes on YouTube. Oof. 58 minutes of Alto, 31 minutes of Google Chrome, 22 minutes of WhatsApp, 27 minutes of Heyday, 2 minutes of Trading 212, 2 minutes of email, and 3 more minutes of neglectable time. Next day, 1 hour and 35 minutes on YouTube, 1 hour and 16 minutes on Google Chrome. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't have to keep saying this, but just to be sure, I only basically use Chrome because I read stories on there, so that's basically just reading time. 41 minutes on Alto, 26 minutes of WhatsApp, 17 minutes of Heyday, 4 minutes of email, and a minute of Trading 212 and YouTube Studio. Then, the next day I discovered a new puzzle thing called a Suguru, and I got absolutely hooked on that, so I spent 1 hour and 29 minutes on that app just solving puzzles, 43 minutes on Heyday, 36 minutes on Alto, 26 minutes of WhatsApp, 15 minutes of YouTube, 9 minutes of Trading 212. The rest isn't really important, that's the not important stuff adds up to about 15 to 20 minutes. Next day, 2 hours and 23 minutes on Suguru, told you I got hooked. 45 minutes on Alto, 20 minutes of YouTube, 4 minutes of Chrome, and then again 15 to 20 minutes of not really important stuff. Yeah, that was it. So that was what I actually spent my time on while on my phone during the no social media week. So with all of that being clear, I think it's safe to say this experiment was both a success and a failure at the same time. A success because I didn't use any social media during that week except if you count YouTube. And I actually didn't really feel the need to as well. Sometimes I felt the urge to check Instagram, but then I was just like, I'm not going to do it this week, so that was fine. And a failure because I spent a ridiculous amount of time on my phone, but on the other hand, as I said, I was sick that week and I didn't have anything else to spend my time on because I couldn't really do any homework because my mind was just too fuzzy for that. So yeah, those were some quick things I wanted to say about this. What I noticed during this week without social media. First and foremost, the amount of time that you grab for your phone is just ridiculous. The moment you feel awkward or there isn't anything being said, you grab your phone. This just really showed me that even though I am not really addicted to social media per se, I am probably addicted to my phone because I just grab it or want to grab it all the time. The second realization is actually kind of a follow-up from the first one because during this week I realized that I really don't need to grab my phone every time I feel awkward or there's some tension hanging around or something. Most people are actually on their phones, so even if you decide not to grab your phone and just stare forward the rest of the time, barely anyone notices, and if they do notice, no one ever says anything about it, and if they do say anything about it, it leads to a good conversation. So grabbing your phone when you feel awkward or bored is just really not something that is actually beneficial or something. And by the way, if you just would stare out of a window or something every time you would otherwise grab your phone, that's also a great way to charge your brain and your ability to focus. The third realization is that by not using social media, you don't miss anything important. If something important does come up, you'll hear about it from your friends or family or on the news or whatever, but you don't need social media as kind of a news app. Knowing what's going on was actually one of the reasons I kept Instagram for as long as I did, and in the end I came to the conclusion that it was just an excuse my brain made up to keep getting those regular dopamine hits. It's absolutely not necessary to rely on Instagram or Facebook for news. It's just not. My conclusions. While I don't think I have a social media addiction, I do think that I really have to pay attention towards spending less time on my phone. And since finishing this challenge, which I did 5 days ago, I actually have been really conscious about the time that I spend on my phone. While I don't think it's a problem to spend time on my phone for reading purposes or solving a puzzle or something, I think those are good things and I should do them. I do think that, for example, one day I played like 1 hour and 6 minutes of a stupid game, and that's just totally unnecessary and wasted time. So I have been, and I'm going to be really paying attention to that. From now on, I'm going to keep Pinterest and Facebook off my phone since I didn't really use those anyway. And for Instagram, I kind of made a rule for myself. And whenever I post something on the Maximizing Life page, I will reinstall Instagram. I will then, if I want to, spend like 30 minutes on my private Instagram, and then I'll delete the app again until I post something for Maximizing Life again. And that's just something I'm going to try out and see if it works. So yeah, I will probably let you know on Instagram whether that works or not. So please make sure you follow me on there. It's just the same at Maximizing Life. And another thing is that I really want to do this challenge again sometime near future, because being sick all week really did have its effect on the results of this challenge, and I would like to try again and see what the results are when I actually do go to school and stuff like that, so I actually can't spend 8 hours on my phone on a day. So yeah, stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you aren't already, please consider subscribing, and if you want to see more content from me, I would suggest going to my website, maximizinglife.com. I publish a blog post there every week about all sorts of things, so you can just figure out something that you like. With that being said, I hope you have an awesome week, and I hope to see you next week. I would delete Facebook interest, sure.